thing, then pushing the power button, then I can lock it. Whereas before, all I had to do was do the one thing. Now they're making me do two. Old dogs don't like new tricks, Evan.
Okay.
That's all I gotta
Welcome
say.
to Tech Talk with Andrew and Evan here at Kensington Wine Market.
I think it's more like Luddite talk.
Yeah,
And it's a point counterpoint. Anyway, thanks for joining us, everybody. We've got an awesome tasting of Glenfarclas for you here tonight. The 2024 Family Cast. I had to think about that for a minute because we always get them about a year after they're released, um, invariably. So like, there's already some 2025s presumably that they've done that we haven't even been told about yet, but we'll find out about at some point. And summer's almost over. I mean, they bottle these things in the summer. Anyway, while we're waiting for some stragglers to sign in, a couple quick bits of news. Walter's Choice Bottling, we've sold roughly a third of the bottles, which was a pretty exciting launch. Sherry cask blended whiskey bottled for our store, probably Macallan and Highland Park and some other gorgeous stuff mixed into sherry butts. We have more bottles coming on Wednesday, so no need to panic. But the first third of these things are gone, which is crazy, more than a third in less than a week. And it's pretty easy to see why. 44-year-old single cask, old school style sherry whiskey at a very reasonable price. Um, I mean, if you don't get hung up on that B word, which that was in my newsletter, you shouldn't get hung up on the B word because there's a lot of really good blends out there. It's just unfortunate there happens to also be a lot of mass produced, really poor quality blends out there. But this is stunning older whiskey, the kind of stuff you just can't get anymore. The price is semi crazy, but it is what it is. The other thing is the whiskey Advent tastings. I always have to be careful um, because it's not an Advent calendar, it's a series of tastings. Wink, wink. Um, the early bird on those ends tomorrow. So they're 310 right now. They'll be available at the end of October. We do 5 sets of tastings starting on December 5th, but we also, well, I should say Evan blogs about each of the whiskeys for every single day in December. So if you want to treat it like a calendar, you can. The purpose of it is for tastings though. And yeah, price goes up by $40 at midnight tomorrow night. So we've sold well, almost 60% of our production of these this year, which is exciting. But as of minutes ago, where is it? The Uber, the higher end version of it, with whiskeys averaging 29 years, up to 50 years of age. These are actually completely sold out unless I get 13 more orders, in which case I'll produce more. But they're 875. That's the early bird we had on them. The full price goes up to 1,000. But yeah, exciting news. The Uber calendars, not calendars, the Advent tasting sets sold out as of just a few minutes ago. But there's more info on that on our
mhm.
website. Certainly, you can always send Evan or I an email if you have questions about that too. But that's not why we're here. Evan, we're here for Glenfarclas.
Glenfarclas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were talking before the tasting. I'm excited my t-shirt still fits, which is surprising for multiple reasons, but we're happy about that. We've done one of these tastings at least the last 3 or 4 years. Does that sound
Mhm.
about right?
Yeah,
And
it does. I haven't been on all of them, but I was on the last one, which was fantastic. Had some stuff in the 90s. We're getting to the point where getting stuff early in the 90s is getting more tough and more expensive. But I'm really looking forward to the lineup we have in front of us.
two years ago might have been the ultimate family cask virtual
Yeah.
experience because that year we broke it, I believe, into two different sets. We had everything. I think we did a 2000s tasting and maybe a 90s tasting, but with a couple of 80s sprinkled in there. I can't remember.
Mhm.
At one point, we would go all the way back to the 70s and do like a 1979 or a 78. But unfortunately, time has marched on. There's very little whiskey, even at companies like Glenfarclas that were very good at nurturing their stocks, shepherding them along, making sure that they didn't sell out of um, everything. But even they've got some gaps in their vintages. Obviously, when they started the family casks, Christ, almost 18 years ago now, which is hard to believe. That first
Mhm.
range came out, went back all the way to 1952, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Yeah.
Now they've got hardly any 84 left. And in some ways, not surprising, 1984 was a brutal vintage for whiskey, partly because the whiskey crash that happened in 1983, 84, people weren't producing, they're afraid to invest. This isn't entirely true about Glenfarclas, although I think they slowed down production. Being a family-owned business, um, I guess we could put six generations in an asterisk beside it, an old family business, they don't always think along the same timelines that publicly traded companies do. And so, you know, I remember, especially with regards to Springbank, formerly the oldest family-owned distillery in Scotland, when times were tough, that's when Headley got his checkbook out and started writing checks to acquire casks. And I think in some ways the story of Glenfarclas has been from lessons that were learned very hard, like the Pattison whiskey crash at the
Yeah.
end of the 1800s that nearly bankrupted them, where they had to sell off almost everything in their warehouse just to get out of debt. Um, they've been savvy, they've played the long game, and I think when other people weren't investing in a lot of production, like in the late 80s or late 80s and early 90s, Glenfarclas was. And we also have those gorgeous parcels of sherry casks from 89, 90, 91, 92, 93 that were
Mhm.
stunning, stunning whiskeys. And sadly, none in the lineup tonight because they're getting slightly expensive for a tasting like this. But you can look at the history of the whiskey industry by following the vintages in the Glenfarclas Family Cask. Like look at the late
Yep.
70s and early 80s. They're all what they call fourth fill, which just means they didn't know how many times they were filled, but they could have been third, maybe fourth, or even second fill, but just not labeled. But a lot of it was in these plain casks, these tired old casks. And that's a style of Glenfarclas that I think is underappreciated, those old oxidized,
Mhm.
really tropical expressions of Glenfarclas. The 2000s, I think we saw a bit of a recovery, and in particular, some vintages like 2000, 2004 have had some gorgeous, dark, kind of gooey oozing sherry casks. But yeah, we've got a span here of what, almost 10 years that we're going to look at
Yep.
this from 99 to 2009. And we probably should just dive right in. We're going to go through the whiskeys for those who haven't done a tasting with us before. Once, then we like to go back through them a second time for what we call the speed round, just to see how the whiskeys have changed, how they've evolved in the glass. And then Evan, I think we might even sprinkle possibly some of your photos into the tasting if we have time.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, we don't want to overpromise. We'd rather underpromise and overdeliver. So it's possible some of those will creep out. And then, if he's willing, we might call on our good friend Doug Page to say a few words about the 2009 vintage because he was there at the selection, and it was controversial. Some have said. So we'll find out. We'll rope him in towards the seventh whiskey. But Evan, let's dive in. 1999 uh, Family Cask, summer 2024 release. Slange everyone.
Yeah.
Evan, where were you in 1999? What were you doing in 1999?
Partying like it was probably. But I was a year into my Calgary life. I had moved up to Calgary from Creston, BC in '98. I was doing the very prestigious, pardon me, job of bagging and tagging bread in the bakery at a superstore in the Northeast, which at
Okay.
the time I think was one of the busiest superstores or the busiest superstore in Western Canada.
Hey,
And
not to go too far from that, where does that put you in the class action in terms of ability to claim money back for bread price fixing?
well, likely I'm not named on the other side of things, but um, I did claim before and I will claim again when it comes to that as
Well,
a family man.
I think
Yeah,
that would be a low point for lawyers if they were going after the stock boys that were
yeah,
shifting
that's
the
right.
bread. But anyway, so you were just into Calgary, learning the ropes.
Yep.
Um, yeah. And how old would you have been? Like 18?
So that, yeah, I would have been 18, 19, probably 19 when this was bottled.
Right.
Um, yeah, the summer 2024. So as long as it was after June 13th when it was bottled, which I'm assuming it would have been,
Yeah.
um, I would have been 19 years old.
Mhm.
Uh, and just in case things don't work out with the order, I haven't tasted all these. You can see there's definitely a little bit of progression color-wise, but I did take a look at the cask type that everything went into. And then secondarily from there, I looked at the ABV level, and that's why we have not a fully concurrent order when it comes to
Oh,
the vintage.
you're
Yeah,
gonna have to prompt me on that because I think I just poured them in straight succession. So I'm
ooh,
glad you made that qualifier there. I am
yeah,
enjoying the nose on this. I'm gonna pop it up on screen, but really quickly, I can tell you I know exactly where I was in the summer of 1999. I
yeah,
was in Miami, Ohio, and Lexington, Kentucky at a fraternity conference, panicking about the news I'd just been informed by my girlfriend that I was soon to be a father. So that was, you know, a stressful weekend, but at the same
yeah.
time, it's turned into something wonderful. 25 years on, but it's funny, like that date is lodged in my mind because of that, and I also do not understand why people live in places like Miami, Ohio. It is so hot in the summer. It is just, or maybe it's Oxford, Ohio, Miami University. I think I got those Oxford, Ohio, Miami. It doesn't matter. The, that was not the most important factor in the story, but it was
There are
so
two things
humid.
that are not, I don't usually think of Ohio with though, is Oxford and Miami. So there you
Yeah,
go.
it's it's a little weird, but regardless. So 1999, let me pop this up on the screen here. It is from a refill butt cask 7066, 53.9%, 26 years of age. And as I was saying, I mean, this is as much as I love the big sherry bombs, I like the subtlety in the older ones that comes from these refill casks. I mean,
Yeah,
some of those 89, 90, and 91s, which were all really good, were just really big. They were so sherried. And what I really liked about especially those late 70s vintage ones that were 39, 40 years of age, refill casks, is just how tropical, how soft they are. You get a bit of the sherry, but the distillate also shines through.
yeah. Yeah, it's got
Which is
a
wonderful.
touch of a marzipan note going on, but and a bit of almond paste, but it still
Yeah.
has those dried fruit notes underneath that. I can see
Mhm.
what you mean by the tropical. Would you guess that this is still likely Spanish oak, just based on the style?
Well, I haven't tasted it yet, so let's circle back to
Hmm.
that question. I do have a very specific tasting note for the nose, though, and it's a
Yeah,
fall tasting note, which is appropriate. It's mowing a lawn with crab apples on it in the fall. Like I'm getting some nice
I think a lot of
ground.
people are doing that right now, actually. Yeah,
Well, my neighbors are. I don't have. I no longer. I have a fake lawn in the backyard, which I never thought I'd love as much as I do. Um, but yeah, it's got that grassy green note, but then also this like macerated, slightly fermenty fruit, which
yeah.
given the way they make whiskey, Glenfarclas is not all that surprising, slightly longer ferments than average. Um, but yeah, palate, Evan, you're probably already ahead of me.
Yeah, that crab apple note is good. It almost goes into like this, like a crab apple jelly or jam note on there.
Mhm.
We just had some pie made with some backyard apples from the neighbors that had fallen on our yard, and reminds me of that as well. Still has a bit of a more about like a macerated and dried fruit notes going into like light raisin notes and dates. Toffee and
Mhm.
butterscotch
Mhm.
coming in quite nicely as well for me.
Yeah, there's some nice, like that really nice bright tart fruit note is in there, dried
Mhm.
fruits. Again, on the palate, I think we're starting to go into some of those slightly tropical notes. 26 years of age, it's not surprising that you'd start to see this. This actually reminds me, there was a Glenfarclas from years and years and years ago, Evan. I don't know if you remember it, but it was a cognac cask. And this reminds me a little
Yeah.
bit of that cognac cask bottling on the palate.
Was that one of the 60s series that they did where it was they did a cognac and a port cask? It had the like the silver dollar looking emblems
Could,
on the front of the different grants.
I don't think so. I think it was a separate release that they did in
Hmm.
partnership with Hine.
Cool.
And it might have even been a finishing. But I know the ones you're talking about, those were the ones where and I'm not even sure if they finished the series. They were going to release one to commemorate each of the owners, and it
Yeah.
was the bottle in a black leather box with a silver dollar in it, as you were saying.
Yeah.
But no, I
Yeah,
think
because
it might have been,
there was a Fino cask. I think there was a port cask,
yeah,
um, and a few others.
yeah. The Fino was gorgeous.
Hmm.
I know. I remember we poured that for a tasting. Anyway, nice little starter.
Yeah.
One of the things that really makes Glenfarclas unique, and it applies to all of these, is the direct fire. One of the few distilleries in Scotland to direct fire. It's probably the most true direct fire in that some of the
Yeah.
other ones that do it, we're going to exclude new distilleries from this because that's a whole other different can of worms. Are maybe not quite as consistent or as vigorous, but like Glenfarclas still has that rummager chain that goes around. They don't burn coal or coke or wood anymore. It's gas fired, but they're one of the few distilleries that has that. Um, and the rummager that runs around there, I think it's one of the reasons why you get this heavier body. There's more character to it from that Maillard reaction that happens in the still by starting to slightly cook or burn some of the sugars before they can be stripped out.
Yeah, I did a couple drops of water in mine just to see what happens. Goes a bit more into like a really
Hmm.
like slightly burnt shortbread note.
Yeah.
Um, doesn't really need the water to start with. I think it's pretty approachable as is, but water doesn't kill it.
There are some tangy, um, little bit tart notes in there, starting to show like a little bit of a twinge of bitterness, like tobacco and leather on the palate, but still a nice balance to it. And shouldn't dwell on that too long, probably, because we've got six more to go through. And I
Hmm.
think the next one is going to a much more decadent place. This
So
next
the
one,
next one is the 2001.
yeah, I moved my glasses.
Good, good.
So I moved my glasses and I moved my bottles right after you said that. So I believe I am nosing the correct whiskey here, but let's see. Let me put it up on screen for you. 2001. And you'll notice a lot of these are low stock. It's because the reality is for most, we only brought in a couple, maybe three bottles of most. There's a few others that based on my patented formula for predicting which family cast will be best, um, which we don't need to speculate on because I'm sure you can figure it out pretty quickly, uh, is how we decide to order things because we don't want to get stuck with too much stock, is the long and short of it. And most of these, maybe three bottles came in. There's a few of these where we brought in more, and I'm trying to figure out why it's not letting me paste. No matter, I'll just put her up on screen. So the 2001 is a 23-year-old roughly from, again, a refill hogshead cask, 3762, cask strength of 54.7%. They haven't given us any other details, but I think it's safe to assume sherry hogshead here. Um, Glenfarclas doesn't use American bourbon barrels, or at least doesn't fill them and bottle them generally as part of their
Yeah.
line. And I think everything that we've got here is some form of sherry. I mean, the odd one out, Evan, over the years has been, and I think last year's 2004 was one of them, was occasionally they'll sneak a port cask at us.
Yeah.
We're not paying attention.
Yeah, or you'll get I mean, you do sometimes get the plain casks as well, where they've just been used so many times that they don't even label it as anything
I don't
now.
think they say plain cask anymore. I think they say fourth
Yeah.
fill. They just
Ah,
jump to fourth fill. That's
that's their default now, yeah.
because before they would say plain cask, and then people would be like, "What does that even mean?"
Hmm.
Um, but yeah,
So this one seems like based on the nose, I'd say it's a little bit softer than the first one there.
yeah.
Even though it's higher ABV by a tad. It still has those apple notes, but it's more into apple blossom and a little bit more tea-like on the nose for me.
So for me, one of the interesting notes that it got off the bat in this is toothpaste. I
Yeah, I
don't
could see
quite know.
that.
It's just got like Aquafresh. I don't use Aquafresh, but I've had it
Hmm.
once or twice, and it's got like a little bit of an Aquafresh note. Now, before anyone thinks that's totally crazy, I think sometimes getting mint notes or even like a hint of a mojito, something like that, is not all that
Mhm.
uncommon in whiskeys. But yeah, the apples are definitely there too. That Aquafresh note is sort of blowing away.
A
So
little
I
bit oilier on the palate on this one.
was gonna say that there's some chocolate and a little bit of
Mhm.
soft leather developing and some spice, but it's heavier, it's oilier.
And nuttier on the finish.
Mhm. It's definitely richer. Evan, I think the order on this is correct. I mean, this has got a lot
Mhm.
more spice to it, more sugars, some nice fruits in there, but I think that this probably is in the right spot.
Cool.
Despite the fact that you felt it was a little softer on the nose, I think it's got a bit more heat to it on the palate.
Yeah.
So that's slightly higher, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the ABV's a notch higher than this. It's actually, to me, it's showing. The tannins are there. This is a nice, really nice, clean sherry bottling. The 2001s have been hit or miss for me with the Family Cast. They've not
Mhm.
always been among my favorite releases. I think from the 2000s, that 2000, 2004, and maybe 2002 were kind of like the guaranteed winners. But this has got a nice structure to it. It's tasty.
I quite like this one. I don't think I could just peg it blind as Glenfarclas. There's something that really reminds me of um like a really like fleshy fruit driven with a little bit of like powdered sugar note like Milton Duff uh personally.
Or like a Gordon MacPhail Milton Duff.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
going to need
exactly.
sherry.
Yeah,
Um, to me, actually, it reminded me a little bit of Glendronach. Like it kind of had a bit of a
yeah, yeah.
Glendronach Parliament vibe to it.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a little bit of like a waxy crayon note on the nose now for me as well.
Mm, it's definitely got a waxiness to it. Um, I mean, I would even go so far as to say like you're talking apple notes that
Yeah.
like this one even more so than the last one. You're getting into like some like cheesy, fermenty notes coming off of it too.
Yeah, for sure. Like almost like veering into like a an applewood cheddar style, but not like super sharp cheese. It's just there. Very a
Mhm.
little bit more lactic in style, maybe a longer ferment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it. I think it's not as like crowd pleasing necessarily as the first one, but I like the complexity of it.
No, I agree. I think the first one was a little easier drinking. Um, this one's got a bit more richness to it, but it's also got a bit more kick. Um,
Hmm.
all right, 2002, we'll go on to, and then Evan, maybe after the 2000, which we've got at number four, we can take a
Hmm.
quick break, and if you have some photos, we can show some
Yeah.
photos for those who've not had the privilege of visiting Glenfarclas before. And I will put the 2002 up here. Um, this is definitely one of the darker whiskeys in the lineup tonight.
Yeah.
Um, Summer 2024, bottling 22-year-old Sherry Hoggy. So first fill this time, cask 3327, bottled at a cask strength of 50.8%. So we'll put that up on the screen and I'll put it in the chat. I think I might have missed the last one. No, I got the last one. Oh, or Evan, you've already beat me to it.
Yeah.
So it's already in the chat. Okay. What do we think of this guy? It is dark.
Definitely going tea-like again on the nose, but definitely like a lot more leathery and concentrated on those dried fruit notes.
It's interesting because on the one hand, it's got this really dark, like fennel, anise, like wood spice note. There's this like espresso bean, like really, really charred espresso bean note. But on the other, there's this lush, creamy, like I don't know, caramel ice cream note balancing it out. It's got both that slightly bitter end, but also that really lush, decadent uh,
Mhm.
backbone to it.
Yeah, it's like that toffee butterscotch note is a little bit darker, a little bit more like caramelized brown sugar oriented, a little touch of molasses, almost going in a like a millstone-esque direction
Yeah.
for sherry.
Well, I mean, I think like I haven't tasted it, but the nose is more like given how dark this is, like we've all had
Mhm.
big sherry bomb Glenfarclas that are really tannic, really leathery, really intense. This is a little softer. This is slightly leaning into that older school style sherry, more like,
Yeah.
a Gordon MacPhail style sherry cask. But time will tell. We got to give it a taste.
Mm. Yeah, a little bit of that molasses and like burnt brown sugar note again on the palate.
Yeah, on the
Still has
palate,
apples. Yeah.
yeah, on the palate, it's more of that. Um, it's more new school sherry. Like this is big,
Yeah.
leathery, spicy. This is the type of sherry that everybody, including Glenfarclas Macallan, are really using these sherry seasoned casks.
Mhm.
But it's clean. It's not completely overwhelming, which when I saw the color on this, the nose didn't really betray it, but my first thought is like, man, this looks like it could be overcooked. But it's
Yeah.
not. It's still held back enough. I mean, this was probably balded at the right time. I'm not sure you
Mhm.
could have left this for many more years in the wood without it just getting way too cooked, but it's got a
Yeah. And super tannic as well. It's got this like just a touch of like a syrupy, almost
mhm,
going into a cherry cough syrup note
mhm.
to it, but again, not like in that like manufactured flavoring style that you get out of a lot of the season stuff.
Evan, that's like my the tasting note I had for that barrel aged chartreuse, that it was
Hmm.
like barrel aged cough syrup and it was delicious. I mean,
Nice.
this has got a little bit of that cherry, kind of like a really boozy cherry cough syrup element, but it's also got these soft, creamy, lush notes. Like it makes me think of bread and butter pudding on the nose, like
Yeah.
warm bread and butter pudding. The palate, yeah. I mean, this is interesting because
Mm.
I've never really thought prior to tonight's tasting of like apple notes, but like Glenfarclas does seem to have a really appley profile.
Yeah.
Um, for me tonight. The palate, despite having some of those dark spices, the firm leather and tobacco, the palate's also got some of those more, sweet, creamy, decadent notes on it,
Yeah.
like maybe a bit of creme brulee. Again, I think that bread and butter pudding for me, slightly singed
Yeah.
on top, is a good note.
Um, like an apple turnover donut as well for me,
Mm.
and a touch of cinnamon bun with that cinnamon spice to it, even.
So, is that a bear claw? Is a bear claw got apples
Yeah,
in?
bear claw. That was that.
Yeah.
That's the term I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is probably one of the better 2002s I think we've had over the
Mhm.
years. There's been a couple of
Yeah,
good
it
ones.
is. I'm trying to recall it, but there was a 2002 Family Cask from a store that I used to work at that was honestly a little bit of a mess. It was disjointed and wild and just didn't really, the components didn't come together. Maybe it was bottled too young, or maybe it was just too rough and jagged overall. But
Or
um,
poorly chosen, not by you, but
yes, poorly
we,
chosen
we don't we don't want
by
to go
whoever
there. We
chose
don't
it.
want to
Yeah,
imply too much.
yeah. But this one, it definitely shows its youth a bit more because of that more, maybe because of the more active cask versus the 99
Mhm.
and the 2001. But it's delicious stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. All right. I mean, and the finish on that just keeps going. Uh, and I mean,
Mhm.
also notable so far, like we've had pretty clean sherry up to this point too. Like these are
Yeah.
um these have been good bottlings. All right, 2000 vintage. So pop her up, and then we're gonna put Evan on the spot to show us some of his photos.
Mhm.
Uh, here we go. So this one is from a sherry butt cask 3287, so a much bigger cask than the last one. 51.8%. So a little weaker in terms of the ABV, but let's see what she's like on the palate.
There's like it's not the most expressive nose, but there's a depth to it for me,
It's got a
if
little
that
bit
makes
of
sense.
little bit of like a hybrid beef chicken stock thing going on.
Yeah.
Like I'm getting uh what are those Mexican tacos? They're really in vogue right now. Birria. It's got like a birria
Mhm.
broth kind of note to it.
It's got a touch of like going into like aged Brunello or a Chianti, like not like a super winey cask note, but just like an aged wine note to it for me.
Mhm. Yeah, it's quite savory.
Yeah. Some
Now,
berry notes underneath that.
I'm getting a little bit of that. I mean, it's mostly like the kind of the dates, the dried figs dates. Um, but I
Mm.
just can't get over how brothy it is to me. Like it's
Yeah.
making me wish I could go right after this is done for a birria broth taco.
Texture wise on the palate, it's very different. Like it almost has that grittiness of a Chianti for me from the acidity of a Sangiovese grape, but it's not as oily as the prior bottlings for me, but it's still not going overly winey. It's the wine notes are just there, and it's very, very oxidized
Hmm.
uh, versus the well, it's almost like a darker version of maybe the 2001
Hmm.
with that oxidization that's gone
I
on
think it's
already.
to your point, it's a little more austere. It's
Yeah,
leathery, earthy, spicy. There are those dried fruit notes there. There is a bit of demerara sugar, some tea. Don't ask me what kind, Jeff. I'm not specifying the kind of tea. Um,
Tetley's. He means Tetley's. Yeah,
no, he means, and Evan, I'm still working through my bag of teas he gave me way back when,
yeah.
because I'm just not a regular tea drinker, and they're delicious. But yeah, there's some pretty powerful, pretty fragrant teas
Hmm.
there. Yeah, no, I think we've got a very different animal here than anything we've seen so far. Like everything I believe up to this point has been from a hoggy. I think this is the
Yeah,
first of the four that is from a butt, much larger cask, um, possibly different oak. Like it could be that these butts are European oak sherry and the hoggies that we had before. I mean, despite how dark that last one was, the 2002, like the profile made me think more American oak sherry. That lush, creamy, kind of sweet dessert note coming through is more of an American oak trade. And for those who are
yeah,
confused and lost, where I'm at here is sherry casks are made from both American and European oak. And if you're a bodega that actually produces sherry, generally speaking, you actually prefer to make your casks from American oak because it's lighter and softer, like those classic old school style, like big, intense sherried whiskeys were often from big sherry butts, but they were tired, they were old. This is probably, I don't know, my guess would be that this is more European oak cask, just by virtue of how much more tannin and how much more spice there is here.
yeah. That I cannot get over those like aged red wine notes on there. Getting them all over the place. It doesn't go astringent though. Like it's still got this dry and spicy note that's really nice. Grapefruit notes. It still kind of harkens back to the apple notes that we got before, but
Mhm.
um has a little bit more of a candied orange note coming through for me as well. Um like the orange zest on an old fashioned even.
Mm. Yeah, leathery, nutty. I did get a note in there that some more critical people than I think might even suggest had a little bit of a trace of that dreaded S word. Like there's a
Mhm.
nuttiness from that sherry creeping in there, but it's not that. It's not sulfur, but it's that again. I think this is that European oak, really nutty sherry cask profile creeping through. But again, like the one before it, I think this was probably bottled at a good time. I'm not sure that this would have been as fresh or interesting in a couple years' time. I think it would have just been too much. All
Yeah.
right, Evan, you got some photos for us? You want to show us some
Yeah.
Glenfarclas?
Yeah. Let's see what I can pull up here. I'll just like skim through them quickly what I
Yeah.
have.
Well, while
So,
Evan's, oh, you
sorry, go
go.
ahead.
No, no, you go. You,
Okay. So looking back in time, this looks like we came here right after the next day after being in Elgin. Drove down to hit Glenfarclas Distillery and a few other distilleries in Speyside. I think we did we do Tamdu on the same day possibly as well?
oh, was that the
Uh,
day we drove? Maybe we might have. Yeah.
yeah. So this is in the visitor center. This is 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, so it might have changed a bit, but you can see a few of the grants in frame here. Uh, and of course, they alternate from John to George and back again.
How many Johns and how many Georges in that photo, Evan?
Uh,
Good
so I'm
question.
seeing one.
Is it
Ooh, I
two of
gotta zoom in
each?
here.
Is it two of each?
I think it is George. Nope, three Georges, one John. We have in
Oh
this in
man.
these photos.
Well, I
The
mean, there
Georges
should be a
take it.
fifth photo on that wall, which would improve the odds slightly.
Yeah. Yeah, it just wasn't in widescreen mode, I guess, for that shot. Again, in the visitor center here, and we'll still not sure if that's the style they used or not. I
Evan,
should have gotten a close up of it.
quick follow-up. Were there six photos on the wall at that time?
Yes, there would have been at that time, although
There, there probably.
George was not there because he had an urgent hunting session with some
Yeah,
friends.
George was supposed to.
Yeah,
I think did he leave us with Deb? Was Deb who ended up
yeah,
showing us
yeah,
around?
yeah. Deb showed us around, and she was fantastic.
Deb's awesome.
Everybody was there. It was super friendly. Oh, it
Well, I
does say
think
so. This was Lynx Distillery.
yeah,
That
it
tall
was a bit
stuff.
of a joke, but I think she was half embarrassed to tell us that he'd passed us over to go shooting.
Yeah,
But what are you gonna do?
yeah. We still got to try a bunch of stuff, so
Yeah,
I
we did. We
was
had a great visit.
super happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is their the water that they use that comes in through the property, and that's a terrible shot.
From Ben Rennis, nonetheless.
Yep. This is their malt mill, not as old as those sort of typical Porteous patent mills that everybody talks about. This one has actual buttons on it.
Yeah. Evan, at this photo makes me think of one thing which is worth mentioning. And
Yeah.
and it was the best part of a George Grant tour of a distillery. And it
Hmm.
was at this point in the tour, he would say, um, this is a distillery. It's like almost every other distillery in Scotland, except it's ours. Any questions?
Yep.
And then he would just start walking. And I think it was like he
Yep.
wanted to get through the tour as quickly as possible to get to the warehouse.
Yep. That makes sense. Like that's where they kept the Guinness for him, I think, too.
Yeah.
So giant mash tun there.
Yeah. One of the biggest until McAllen built that monstrosity. Um,
Yep.
but we don't need to talk about them tonight. Yeah.
There's one that's something empty, but here, I'll get over these. I think I've got some still room up here. There we go. So the spirit still and
Well, that's the wash still
wash
that
still there.
yeah. You can always tell, Evan, because of the watch glass. The watch glass is
Yeah,
only ever on the wash still.
makes sense. And then yeah, this
Oh,
is when I was
360.
fooling around with
And
those
you
to put
even
up
got
on
the
Google.
back of my bald head.
Yeah, you were in the
Everybody,
way of the stills
yeah,
there. That wasn't my fault. Just to be clear. Spirit safe.
yeah,
Everything all nice and shiny in there as well.
yeah.
And then we got eventually to the
Open,
warehouse.
yeah, we opened some red doors, famous red doors.
Yeah, nice slate roofs there.
Yeah.
And here is in the number one warehouse. Some very old roped off casks that you can go around and take a look at. And then some younger stuff in behind as well.
Evan, you probably shouldn't show the photo, but you recall if we got a cheeky taste of something old while we were in there?
I can't recall if they've lynched anything or if they just had bottles off to the
Oh,
side. I think they just had bottles off to
no,
the
she
side.
did. She did. I
Okay.
don't remember what it was. It doesn't matter. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't do it as often anymore, but I mean, going back to the glory days, like 2005, 2006, 2008, around that time going in there, like we'd go in
Hmm.
there and we would try 1950s Glenfarclas, 1960s Glenfarclas. Like it
Hmm.
was absolutely mental back then. It was a different, more innocent time. These old whiskeys and Glenfarclas, traditional dunnage floor, earthen warehouses, you know,
Hmm.
they were still rare back then, but not quite as kind of precious as maybe they're regarded to
Yeah.
be now. And
Still has the excise man's
yeah,
little hut in there.
yeah. That 3D rendering or that
Ooh.
that rendering makes it look a little bit like um,
Hmm.
it's like a Spanish bodega cellar. Evan, I wonder
Yeah.
if that cheeky photo there might be a hint of something, but maybe we
I think it was
I don't
actually.
think we need to delve too far into that or
Yeah.
linger too long on it. But
Well,
yeah.
it's obviously the photo didn't take because I'm pretty sure that's meant to say 84 there.
Mhm. Yeah. Anyway, um, fun tour. Always great to go to Glenfarclas. It's been a while since I was
Hmm.
last there, but shall we continue on with the range now?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Yeah, some great side comments in the chat there. Um, Anytime I'm in one of these tastings and someone disparages Macallan, my wife overhears it and I end up having to re-explain why whiskey nerds hold it in such low regard. I mean, that's about as high a praise I think as we could possibly get. I mean, I'll qualify that. We shouldn't go down this again. Every time I've tried their 12 and 18, they're not bad. They're just not great. And they just haven't been great for a long time. And don't go visit the distillery. It's soulless. And it made me angry the last time I was there. Um, 2004. This has been kind of, one of the hottest vintages amongst, I'm assuming mainly drinkers and not really collectors, which is probably preferable. Um, all these 2004s have been from sherry butts, if I'm not mistaken, all of them fresh. They've all been from a relatively similar parcel of casks. This one's 58.8%, cask 2383, and we'll have to see how it stacks up. The one exception, as I mentioned, was the wild card they threw us for in 2023, when rather than bottling a fresh sherry butt for '04, they bottled a port cask. But hey, I mean, got to mix it up every once in a while.
Yep.
So 20 years of age, roughly. The second darkest, I think it's fair to say, whiskey in the lineup tonight. So, Evan, what are you thinking about this one? This has got some eat more notes to it on the nose to me.
Yeah, it's going a bit more into those like fruit leather notes, more bar, like you're saying as well.
Hmm.
It noses like it's going to be chewy, like really big, rich dram with maybe a touch of dryness to it for me.
Yeah, there's a grapiness. I mean, this
Hmm.
nice kind of milk chocolate. It's making me think of Big Turks. My brother used to like Big Turks when we were a kid,
Hmm.
those candy bars.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it does have some wine notes, but more of a fortified wine style now for me.
I mean, the nose is maybe it's me and I find it's a little closed. Like
Hmm.
seems a bit, I don't want to say one dimensional, but it's just not.
So far, I would agree with that one-dimensional note on the palate. Um, it does have a lot going on, but there's this like sweet nougat note that kind of like
Mm.
and sponge toffee that kind of like covers everything for me. There are some dried fruit notes there, and it's got a bit of nuttiness, but it's not as complex as I was thinking it was going to go.
I'll take your O. Henry bar, Evan, and I'll raise
Hmm.
you a crunchy because I
Yeah,
think it's got that sponge toffee sort of
yeah,
sponge sugar definite decadence.
agreed. Yeah, nothing wrong with this dram. I like like at least first time through, I prefer the sort of the quirkiness of the 2001 and the the 2004 or the 2000 so far. But
Yeah. It's it's really big.
yeah,
It's this thick, slightly syrupy, one-dimensional um sherry, but it's good. I mean, if that's what you want, I
yeah,
I
nothing
don't
wrong with
think you'll
it.
be disappointed. It's very, very
Yep.
clean. Um, the chocolate kind of reminds me of like the Dairy Queen, like the chocolate they dip your soft serve cone into.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
a cheap chocolate, but it's
Where it leaves like a film on
yeah,
your palate afterwards. Yeah.
yeah. It's like the corn dog film, but not.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with it either. And I think it's maybe if it suffers at all, it's because of the rest of the lineup, not
Mhm.
of anything under its own volition.
I think people that like this vintage of Glenfarclas will like this. Like this is
Yeah.
right in the wheelhouse of that. It's a big, big sherry bomb, and like it's I don't want to say it's untamed. It's definitely tamed, but it's like it's spicy. There's a bit of heat, 58.8%, so not all that surprising. But this is what people that want sherry bombs want. Like this is not this is going to give them everything they're looking for. So I think we're on the same page with that one. It's good for what it is, but it's not what I would choose
Yeah.
to drink personally.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe it'll open up and on the second time through,
Right? We've
it'll
still
be
got the
completely
speed
changed
round
for
to look
us.
forward to.
Yeah.
All right, 2005. We're
Hmm.
one whiskey away from asking Douglas for all the dirt from the tasting of the 2009 cask selection. Um, so 2005 cask, cask number 2462, another fresh sherry butt, 18 years of age. We're jacking up the ABV even higher. We're going up to 59.3 now, though notably not quite as dark. It's not got quite the color, but it's close. So there is the 2005. So what do we think? Kind of like a quite caramely, like dulce de
Yeah.
leche.
A bit more underlying barley notes though, compared to the 2004.
I can see that.
A little bit of grape nut cereal.
What what were grape nuts? Like
Yeah, I think
just
scientists are still trying to figure that out,
puffy
honestly.
things flavored to taste grape, slightly grapey.
Yeah,
I think they lost me at grape nuts. Like I think as a child, I was like, that does not sound appetizing. So why would I
yeah,
eat it?
that's right.
Evan, per the chat, does he is a bit of a cereal connoisseur. He does have three small children in his defense.
That's right. They
So,
don't eat grape nuts. So that was just a memory pull, I guess.
oh, Dave Nielsen saying
Cherry
cherry
cola.
Coca-Cola.
I think
It's
that's a good
got
note.
that, yeah, it's got that cola cube note. Like I can see the
Yeah,
candied cherry note,
it's like 90% cherry cola and then 10% like sarsaparilla.
or maybe it's like a boutique like cherry cola, like
Yeah,
Boylan's,
yeah.
something like that. Oh man, grape nuts was not anything like I thought it would be. Are we? So Doug brought up the bingo sheet. Is the bingo sheet still going, Evan?
I haven't updated it for a while, but I still put it in every tasting, like on the tasting, just assuming people get bored of us, that they should have
Was
something to do.
was slagging McAllen on the bingo sheet?
I'd have to take a look.
I mean that,
I think it's still pro and anti Lecheg, if I remember correctly. Yeah,
that
my referencing serial is definitely on it.
yeah. Okay. All right.
I think I still have you making up a word by
Mm.
combining two words together is still on there as well.
It is one of my favorite things to do, and I think there's been some good
Mhm.
ones over the years.
There
Um,
have been.
like whiskeyflation,
Hmm.
alternative. I mean, what do we call it? The Ramniversary. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of great words. The palate
This
on
one's nice. There's just like a touch of like a balsamic note coming through on the finish.
so this reminds me, Kensington Wine Market, the first Glenfarclas bottling we ever did
That
um,
97.
was the 97, and this reminds me a little bit of that 97. And I
Hmm.
mean, both of them had, I mean, to riff on your cereal note, like kind of a cornflakes note to them. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I get a little bit of that both on the nose and on the palate with this, but maybe more leaning towards a slightly like a honey nut
Hmm.
cornflakes.
Yeah, I could see
Yeah,
that.
the palate on this is it's not like the '04. It's a bit more restrained. It's a bit more nuanced. Um, it's got a bit better balance, and I actually find it less hot than the 2004, which was slightly lower ABV.
Yeah, agreed. It even like it's got the your typical raisins and dates, but it does have like an orchard fruit note in there and even into like a pitted fruit, like a dried apricot note in there for me as
Mhm.
well. Pretty tasty stuff.
2005, Evan. First time I went to Scotland. First time I visited distilleries.
Nice.
First time I pissed on the Duke of Sutherland's monument.
Hmm.
Not the last. So, but that's a different story.
Hmm.
Well, hopefully not the last. I mean, I think I've got at least one more in me. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I like this. I think that despite this
Yeah.
being again a fresh sherry, but I really wonder like if that slightly darker profile from the '04 to this is that type of wood. Like if
Yeah.
this is more like an American oak sherry, but seasoned sherry, but as opposed to a European oak.
Yeah. It could have been that. It could also be just where it was in the warehouse too.
Mm,
Whether it was in a spot that was a little bit hotter or saw a bit more evaporation or what have you as well.
so many factors that could play into it.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, for the second youngest whiskey that we have in the lineup, the youngest one we've had so far, that
Hmm.
one is a bit of a surprise favorite. So
Yeah.
let's go on to the '09. But before we do, um, let's see if our friend Doug is willing to join us for a moment to share some insight on the tasting of and the selection of the 2009. So, Doug, every year Glenfarclas at the Spirit of Speyside Whiskey Festival, or at least for the last number of years, hosts a tasting to select the youngest family cask to be bottled that year. And every year it's roughly 15 years of age, a whiskey that they're looking for. So 2024 would have been the 2009 vintage. This year it would have been the 2010 vintage. Um, Tell us about the tasting and the experience because you were there and we were not.
Well, I will say as well, I think Dave Stevens on the line, he was there as well. So please chime in the chat or uh,
Mazel tov, Dave.
turn on your camera if you want to disagree or add anything. But maybe I'll even take a step back from when we started because it all started at the last in-store tasting with Deb, where we were able to try the 50, was it
You did
35,
try the
40?
50-year-old. Yeah.
Yes, yes, with it, which was absolutely amazing. And there was five or six of us in the crowd who, in a very kind Canadian way, put an immense amount of pressure on Deb to say we would love to come out and pick the next family cast because she had mentioned it. So she very kindly agreed, gave me her card. I bugged her on email, and she very kindly took care of a number of us in terms of coming out. We even were able to visit a little bit earlier and spend some time with Callum, the distillery manager, who was supposed to take us on a tour, was had to miss it because of a couple of medical things that he was getting done at the time. But very kindly showed up with a bottle of 1952 Family Cask
Mm.
uh, and let us crush the entire bottle at the end of the warehouse tour. So again, Glenfarclas remains near and dear to my heart for that reason. However, um, we ultimately went and started with a quick tour. Another gentleman in our group not to be confused with the Kevin K on this one, another Kevin K.
Dick Kevin. Dick Kevin.
That's right. To Kevin was walking by as we were Deb was taking us through for a tour of the distillery, and that water source that Evan showed earlier. There was actually two baby ducks that seemed to have got washed down and were about to get sucked into the distillery, and it managed to just get off on the side. And so one of the things that us being kind Canadians that we do is not only point that out, and we've called over one of the distillery workers. He hopped over the fence and was able to rescue the both of them. But everywhere we go, we tend to bring cans or containers of maple syrup to give out as gifts. Seems like a pretty good trade, a little bit of maple syrup for some whiskey with it. And so we pressured, and I believe they acquiesced to ultimately name the two of them maple and syrup. So I've been meaning to reach out to Deb, but please, Andrew.
Well, I have a question. Our friend Dick Kevin is a firefighter. He did not leap into action and save the ducks on his own. I'm
No,
kind of disappointed on behalf of Canada and the state of our fire departments.
he was off duty and much
Yeah.
like most of the time emotionally dead when it all happened. So it was more of a pointing out of, haha, there's a couple of little ducks that are in peril, as opposed to,
Wow.
oh my gosh, we need to save them. Regardless,
Wow.
this isn't a
So
beat on.
all firefighters are nihilists? Is that
I,
what we're saying?
I would never comment on something like
Maybe
that. We're
only
not
when they're off duty, Evan. Only
we're
when
not
they're
kink
off.
shaming tonight. So
All right.
anyway, we went in and ultimately had a chance to go through, I believe it was seven different whiskeys with it, and then there was a blind vote with it. So you go into sort of the grand sort of dining hall room with the beautiful Canadian ship wood on the walls. And they very kindly sort of brought us in with it. So ultimately, we're
The
able to,
Empress of Australia, is it not the Canadian Pacific steamer Empress of Australia?
Yep.
there we go. Thank you. I'm glad between the three of us we were able to piece that all together.
You didn't even need
Regardless,
ChatGPT.
exactly. At the end of it, really, it was an ability to go through seven. Um, I am still a little bit upset. I mean, there was very different types, first, second, third. I'm not sure if there was a fourth fill. I don't remember there being a pour cask, but basically we were able to go through a bunch of blind ones, and then there was a secret ballot with it. I am not usually a sulfur fan, but there was one in there that actually had a beautiful flinty note to it that I absolutely loved, and ended up. To be fair, there we go. Um, Beautiful room. Um,
Slightly dated, but beautiful.
exactly. Our German friends are often known for loving big dark sherry and loving a little bit of Flint. And so there was, as usual, this was the Spirit of Speyside Festival that we were at, where all of these great events that aren't normally available throughout the year were happening. And I assumed that I would be in lockstep with them in terms of voting for the Flinty one. It ended up being I was the only one out of the entire 30-ish people
You
that voted
you
for the Flinty one.
you thought the Germans were with you, and they were not in the end.
They were not. I was all alone with it. I still say that was my favorite out of it. However, I was rightly outvoted by the vast majority, who ultimately did pick this 2009, which I believe, if memory serves, was my second favorite of it. So they certainly weren't wrong. And I only took a browbeating for a few months after that in terms of how horrible they all thought my palate was for loving that. But I'm secure enough in myself to be able to admit that I enjoy a good flinty sherry bomb every so often. So
And you also would not be required to sell it, so it didn't really matter what the outcome was in that case either.
that is true. So regardless, for those who are able to go out to Spirit of Speyside, they do hold this every single year. Absolutely wonderful experience and highly recommended for all.
Yeah, I should go to that once. I've done the Feshiel once. I should do Spirit of Speyside once. Um, it's it's funny. It does remind me of every time Deb's done a tasting with us, and she talks about how, and I think it was her idea to start doing these tastings to pick the family cask for that year. And she said that she always makes note that she reserves the right to pick something different. So it's a guidance. And that's because
Smart.
all you need is a handful of Germans and Doug, and the next thing you know, it's not what the crowd pleasers were looking for.
That's right.
So,
Oh, listen, it's going to be a crazy party regardless. I think we can all agree on that. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you for your feedback there, Doug. Um, so, I mean, on the nose is quite nice on this. It reminds me a
Yeah.
lot of it reminds me a lot of, I think I'm getting lost here, the 2005 and maybe
Mhm.
the '02 profile wise, but the palate's nice. It's pretty big, it's pretty rich. It's almost on the verge of being over the top.
Yeah, I agree. It does have this really good like fleshiness to it. Like it kind of envelopes instead of smothers in a nice way in my opinion. I quite like it. I think it's maybe like Glenfarclas wise, it's definitely one of those that's coloring inside the boxes for style. But I think for that it shows better than the 2004, I believe it did.
So I
Yeah.
was going to say, Evan, I think
Yeah.
I know why you like this, and because it's the woodiest
Yeah,
of
could be.
the whiskeys. Like there's a lot
It's
of
the most bourbon-esque of all
there
Glenfarclas.
is a very bourbon-esque quality to it. Like
Mhm.
it's got this really dry, firm wood note, and it's got a lot of wood spices like fennel, anise, um,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, demerara sugar coming in through there
yeah.
too.
So
Yeah, I like it.
interesting. And apparently, according to Doug in the chat, not even the most sherried of the bunch. So um, I guess there's going to be some Macaloni colored Glenfarclas being released in the future, which,
Wow.
as we know, Glenfarclas is the plural for Glenfarclas.
Mhm.
It's commonly accepted as a term.
I didn't know Macaloni was a color type now too. That's good to know.
Well, okay, we don't need to go down. Let's avoid going down that rabbit hole. Um, all right, speed
I
round,
look forward
Evan.
to the next Crayola box, regardless.
That's right. um, the Glenfarclas 1999. Choosing whether to just move on or try to dig myself out of a hole.
Yeah.
I think Glenfarclas does count as me making up a word because I don't want to say I'm the
Mhm.
first person to have said it, but I'm the first person I know to have said that word. So it might count
Yeah.
as one of the spots on the board.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm guilty of listening to myself before others
Um,
too, so I get where you're coming from.
Doug and I might have a chicken or the egg argument on this one. So
Mhm.
um, the nose is still pretty. I don't think I'm getting it as I don't think I'm experiencing it as well as I should because I think we've gone through some pretty intensely sherried whiskeys, and it's
Yeah,
softened a lot. And sorry, my nose has been desensitized a little bit, but it seems like it's still that soft, delicate, kind of buttery, tropical sherry.
that's a really good point because like from doing Scotch Malt Whiskey Society tastings as you have for a long time as well, like
Mhm.
you can get from peated whiskey back to number one in a lot of lineups and still get a ton off that first one.
Yeah.
Whereas the sherry seems to be much more covering everything else up after a while, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's what's happened with this one. I'm getting more of the sherry now than I was before. I'm not getting as much of those like subtle fruit notes. There's I think they're still there, but
Yeah.
I think some of those slightly towards overcooked sherry releases we've had later in the lineup have really tainted my palate.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I said this with the second one first time around, but again, that one's going a little bit more into like a Manic More Milton Duff, where it's got a bit more of a fruit salad note coming through.
Yeah. The 2001 Evan, speaking of fruit salad,
Yeah,
has like it's kind of like a dance competition between fruit salad and ketchup potato chips. And it's
I've been to
not
one
the
of those.
mashup
Yeah,
anyone asked for or wanted.
yeah, yeah. But it's the hero we need. Yeah, that continues through on the palate as well. A touch of like a Hawaiian pizza note going through there.
I think the reality is, and it's been a long time, like we used to do those Glendronach verticals where we would do like
Yeah.
up to 10 single cask strength sherried Glendronach. Um, and I think the same thing is starting to happen here. Like, I don't know. I think my palate is just almost overwhelmed by all the sherry.
Mhm.
What about that 2002? That the nose on it is surprisingly soft, kind of fudgy.
Yeah. Like dark chocolate notes in it for sure.
Mhm.
Steep tea again, going a little bit more into like molasses and fennel notes, a little bit of licorice.
Would you say it's oolongy, Evan? Or
Potentially. Jeff's got to chime in on that. I was just about to say though, a touch of celery salt to it, or celery seed even. A little
lapsang?
bit of the rim of the clamato or Caesar.
For me, like the big note on the palate is licorice. This has just gotten really licoricey to me, like the sort of
Hmm.
sweet, gooey Aussie licorice.
Uh, Grandma 1 and Grandpa 2 in Minnesota. I'm assuming that's
We need
Minnesota.
t-shirts for that in the style
Yeah,
of thing one and thing two, I believe
yeah.
would be the most
Has
appropriate.
anybody tried water with that one? Which one are you referring to? Did we already jump past it there
Seven?
with number 7?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
we'll
mean,
get back to that.
yeah, I honestly have not put water in any of these. And part of that, and this might be a bit of a bias, is I find sherried whiskeys don't take water as well as bourbon cask ones.
Mhm.
For me, I
I've
generally find it
I've
doesn't work.
I've actually put them in a few drops in all first go around, and I feel like it's kind of just reintegrated at this point.
Okay.
Hasn't changed it too much.
Um, 2000.
Mm. Still has that aged red wine note for me. I think it was this one that I was getting that the first time through. Um, just
Yeah.
a touch of like dried pressed flowers to it, but still has a really nice complexity to it. A little bit of leather
In,
bound books, parchment paper.
in some ways, it's like the oldest tasting of them in the sense
Yeah.
that it's got this dry, kind of dirty 30s, oh brother, where art thou farm vibe to it. Like
Hmm.
it's dry, brittle, um, you know, not quite as like fleshy and rounded
Yeah.
as most of the other whiskeys in the lineup.
It's a dram of constant sorrow.
It is the Dram of Consistorio. That's a good one. I mean, that's better than riffing on the bunnies, the guy who kills the bunnies. But I realize different movie, same genre, sort of. Um, it, I don't know, there might be a twinge of, and maybe it's from the grain. There might be a twinge of like sulfur or something on that one.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
more I think about it. So
Yeah.
there's something's rotten in the state of Denmark, I guess is what I
Yep.
would say about that.
Back to the 2004.
2004.
Yeah, still pretty rich and dense. Still getting that burnt brown sugar note on this one.
Like chocolate hubba bubba on the nose.
Yeah, Tootsie Roll, I think is what they call those.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah, this was the Eat More one, I think.
Hmm.
Um,
Touch of walnut liqueur on the finish there.
it settled down quite a bit from the first time round. Um, it's still too like it's still too sherried for me, I think, for my taste. It's like it's a bit more than
Hmm.
I would normally want to drink.
Yep.
But it's good.
Well, good news because the next two are just far less sherried. So this is the 2005 now.
Hmm.
More toffee and butterscotch on the nose for me, and more just fresh brown sugar, not or demerara, not like caramelized.
I'm finding the nose is starting to get harder and harder for me to pick apart, but there's a ton of brown sugar
Yep.
spaces on the palate here. Um, not quite as woody as the '09 the first time around, but it's getting close.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right, '09. This is going to be a hard one for me, Evan. I mean, there's definitely some ones that are not my favorites, but I might have a hard time picking
Yeah.
three whiskeys out of the lineup here.
So Tom says the 2009 has a very fragrant and even perfumey nose. It reminds me of the Buna 40 or cool.
Hmm.
The one with the Mariner through the porthole wooden box or
Yeah.
tube that they had.
I was gonna say this one reminds me of like some little book experiment
Yeah,
where maybe they use some
I can
sherry
see that.
cask and there's a touch of rye in there as well too.
Yeah. It's the one where they added some Glengarry to it.
Hmm. I
Definitely a
think
lot of wood, as you were saying there.
I think yeah. I mean, and it's not necessarily in a bad way, but it's very, very woody.
Hmm.
Um, okay, this is gonna be tough, Evan. I suppose we should fire up the poll here now.
Yeah.
While we're doing that, and while people are picking their favorites, where are you? Do you have any idea of where your favorites are going to lie in tonight's lineup here?
It's tough because I do feel like you do, where the first two especially have just been overwhelmed by everything that came after. Um, Trying to remember back, I really did like that 2001. And so I'm going to put it up there. I think it can't hold up in a lineup uh, with the next five that came after, essentially. So I'm going to pick the 2001, the 2009, and the 99. Uh, it's in that order too. I really like the 2009, the really big sherry there, the tons of oak that it showed that it was woody without being astringent or going to like super bone dry. Great wood spices, great toffee and butterscotch notes. Still had tons of complexity. But getting to try those first two Glenfarclas casks as well that were a little bit more tame sherry wise. Um,
Yeah.
it's fun to see the nuances that come through on things like that you just don't see in your typical Glenfarclas bottle. Andrew?
Yeah. All right. I'm yeah, I'm gonna be a little different here. I think I'm gonna go 99 is my favorite. And I think the main reason it's my favorite is just I really like that. And sorry, I forgot to hit launch here. I've just launched the poll. I like that it was a bit more restrained sherry. I like that it was starting to get oxidized and tropical. And I think it's showing worse for the fact that my palate has now been completely run roughshod over.
Decimated. Yeah.
Um, I'm then going to jump to 2005, almost the other end of the spectrum. I really
Cool.
liked that the first time round. I still like it now. Um, Despite the fact that it's probably a European oak sherry and it's probably close to being overcooked. I just liked it all over, which surprises me. I would have thought that if I wanted something like that, I'd like the '04 better, but I like the '05. And then my second favorite, I'm going to go back to the 2001. I think
Cool.
those first two for different reasons were really spoke to me. I liked on the nose how delicate the 99 was. And then for the 2001, I liked that kind of decadence that it had outside of those classic sherry notes that gave it a bit of balance. And the '05,
Mhm.
I think I kind of felt I had to pick a sherry bomb in that. And of the sherry bombs, I think that '05 was my favorite. So,
Yeah.
so
It's both difficult but also fun to do lineups like this. It definitely
mhm,
reminds me of different tastings we've done and society tastings as well, where it just reminds me how much with single casts you just have to take everything warts and all.
mhm,
Where you take the best and the worst of everything in the cask, and it's usually the best and the worst that show off the most
mhm.
because you're side by siding them, but it makes it a lot of fun.
Well, and I think this is why, I mean, we don't do a ton of these anymore,
Mhm.
but there are a few, and and by which I mean that like a vertical tasting of things that are very similar. And I mean, we've done it with Signatory, with their 100 proof, or with the Symingtons. Um, I think the most fun tastings we have are when we're tasting a range of different things
Yeah.
because it highlights the differences between them so much more. And it goes back to, I remember the first couple of times we did Glendronach vertical tastings in the shop. Like this is probably 12, 13 years ago. And it gets so hard after a while to describe the difference between 7 things or 9, 10 things that are variations on a theme. Whereas the Ben Riach ones were much more interesting because they were all over the map. Some were peated, some were unpeated, different cask types. And as fun as it is, like it becomes almost more taxing in a tasting like this to pick your favorites out because there's like very subtle differences or the nuances between them. And then just that sherried style, we've talked about this. Like as much as I love sherried whiskeys and I do, like 7 of them in a tasting is
Yeah.
almost punishment for the palate.
Yeah, we should put together like we'll just call it the nuclear option tasting, where it's just like 3 family casks and 4 octomores or something like that.
That would be a nuclear option tasting. I mean,
Yeah,
as long as they were sherry bombs and then the highest phenol content octomores possible.
that's right.
And
It's
yeah, I think that'll
the
work.
spinal tap tasting where everything's at 11.
Well, and not to plug something else, because I think there's a lot of cool things in here and cool bottles worth buying. But it
Mhm.
does, circling back to the whiskey we launched in a couple of tastings last week, that Walter's Choice Balling, which is that softer, more old school, more subtle style of sherry. I mean, that's a whiskey you can drink a couple of glasses of. Most of these you could probably have one, and then you're going to want something a little lighter and a little fresher. And that's not true of Glenfarclas as a whole. If you look at their range, like the 25, the 30, 40, or even the younger ones, um, they're not that intensely sherry. Like the family casks are kind of an exception. They, in some ways, are overall the most heavily sherried whiskeys that they bottle. And they're good, they have a place there, but 7 of them in a tasting is a bit of a marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, shall we look at the polls?
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like everybody's voted.
Yeah. Phil and Suzanne were hoping for more digs at Lecheg, though, Evan. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Maybe we can squeeze in a couple.
Yeah. I have to take them off being my Facebook friends now, I guess, but
Yeah.
that's
It's
something I'll have to do later.
yeah, it's a sacrifice. All right,
Yeah.
this is interesting. So I'm trying to expand my thing here. I guess I got to go full screen. Um, Favorite whiskey tonight, a tie, the 2009 and the 2001. I
Wow.
definitely didn't see that coming. The 99, 2002, and 2005 finishing in second. And then second favorite whiskey tonight, the 2004. People really like that big syrupy
Hmm.
sherry, and then a tie between the 99, the 2002, and then votes for others. I mean, ultimately, everything got a vote tonight. Every
Yeah.
whiskey was more than one person's first or second favorite. So
Well,
that's
and
fun to
like
see.
savory notes were mentioned on a few of them, but for the most part, this has been a pretty clean family cast tasting, I
Yeah,
would
there's
say.
been, I mean, to be fair, I think it's been rare. We've had very few like
Hmm.
really over the top sulfur. It's been a long time since we've had anything like that from Glenfarclas. But um, I agree. I think there was nothing in there that was undrinkable. That's for sure. All right, Evan's cheeky third question. I don't know why I'm struggling with it here. The best sherried single malt I've ever had was matured in, and then his options, it was matured in the finest oak cask according to, I'm assuming that means the producer.
The
The
label. Yeah.
yeah. Um, sorry, the look here. Evan, you like me. You use many words when few will do, which I appreciate,
Yep.
and it means that I got to go full screen to get the full words. Um, it was matured. The second, it was matured in the finest oak. No, sorry, that was the first one. Super specific. Octave, quarter cask, hogshead, butt, punchin, Gorda. I love how everything but quarter cask got a vote
Yeah.
there. Um,
Not a lot of sherry quarter casks out there, but I have had at least one whiskey with them. So
and would it have been a Glenfarclas 7?
actually, I've had 2.
Yeah.
different sherry quarter cask whiskeys. Those old 25 quarter casks were fantastic, actually.
Yeah. So Glenfarclas famously about a decade ago released in non-traditional Glenfarclas packaging
Yes.
25-year-old quarter cask bottling, which was a very, very good bottling of
Yeah, and it was a series of quarter casks where I think there was stuff going into, like, at the time 31 and 32 years old,
mhm.
if I remember correctly, and it was like stuff they had bought back from a private buyer that had them filled, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think Doug's feeling like you've not been charitable enough towards Lefroy, um, and or maybe just haven't tried enough
Yeah. I
sherry
love the
quarter
quarter
casks.
casks that Lefroy produces. I haven't had enough sherried Lefroy quarter casks, that's for sure.
Though, Evan, possibly your worst tour experience
Hmm.
because of the guide, not because of the distiller.
Yep,
But
that's right.
we don't need to open old wounds.
Yeah.
Um,
Favorite Isla Distillery, worst tour experience.
yeah, yeah, it was definitely that. Well, Evan, um, this was a great range,
Yeah.
possibly too great a range for our palates tonight, but it was fun to work through. Thank you for that. To our friend Doug, who chimed in with some intelligence on the 2009. Thank you very
Yeah.
much for that as well.
Yeah.
Everyone,
Doug, it's been nice to finally have some intelligence on this, so we appreciate it.
yeah, there's some kudos there. To everyone who tuned in, want to thank you for that. Appreciate it. Don't forget, tomorrow was the last day to take advantage of the early bird price on the 2025 KWM Whiskey Advent tastings. Until the next tasting, which actually Doug is hosting with me next week, which
Mhm.
is a dissection of what happened to Waterford. Um, I guess we'll talk soon. So until then,
Yeah.
everyone, have a good night. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk soon.